going back probably 100,000 years ago, back to 6 million, what was our lifestyle? We were cold and hungry. These days we live in air-conditioned and heated houses with food always available, which goes against what we've evolved to be optimal. And so we've got to go back to those days where occasionally we were hungry, occasionally we were cold. We'll get to cold therapy later. But basically the concept, if there's nothing else that you remember about this topic, just remember this, that we need to put our bodies in a state of want for them to fight diseases and have ultimate health in old age and give us longevity.
Significant strides in decelerating the aging process have been accomplished through the pioneering research conducted by Dr. Sinclair's esteemed team. Following numerous scientific experiments, they have garnered remarkable breakthroughs. Dr. Sinclair's team has successfully demonstrated the capacity to retard the aging trajectory, notably exemplified by his personal ability to maintain a youthful physique through dietary modifications. This video presents an encompassing understanding of the strategies employed to impede the aging process. We warmly encourage your engagement in supporting our team's efforts to create more informative videos in this domain. By following and contributing insights on the latest advancements in bodily health and methodologies to prolong life, you contribute to our collective pursuit of enhancing well-being.
Weeks, improved blood pressure, reduced BMI, decreased waist circumference, and this is the important part, I mean, it's all important, but it upregulated DNA repair proteins. This is what we saw in all these model organisms as well.
Yeah, there are dozens of studies showing that periods of fasting is beneficial to people who are obese, not just because they lose weight, but they turn on their body's defenses, they become more insulin sensitive and their glucose levels come down. Also showing that people of regular weight, like me, can benefit from fasting. There's a number of studies there. And these are all in the show notes if somebody wants to go and check them out.
Some scientific studies have explored the relationship between blood sugar levels and cancer. There is some evidence suggesting that certain types of cancer cells utilize glucose sugar as a primary source of energy. The Warburg effect, for example, refers to how cancer cells consume glucose at a higher rate than normal cells. Some researchers are exploring therapies that target this dependency on glucose, such as dietary interventions that restrict sugar intake or fasting.
Is that certain diseases, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, even cancer, those diseases seem to also benefit from fasting, including when you combine chemotherapy with fasting. You get this double benefit for many types of cancers. And then the final point that I think is really interesting is you can mimic fasting, say metformin. A number of doctors prescribe metformin to patients with prostate cancer because more studies are showing that these mimicries, these molecules that mimic fasting or combinations of both will help you beat cancer.
Telling them that their lives are, like the sugar is this really great thing that they should have all the time. They should be able to have snacks that are laden with sugar and breakfast that starts with sugar. And
yeah, well, I blame the food industry for that because they want to sell more food. And we've been taught that children should never go hungry. Breakfast is the best meal of the day. And we've got an obesity epidemic in kids, no surprise. And what parent doesn't feel guilty when their kid feels hunger? But for long-term health, even programming the epigenome for long-term health requires some hunger in individuals. And what we do to kids is we say, big breakfast, here's a snack, here's a lunch, terrible lunch typically at schools, public schools, big dinner, go to bed full, wake up, eat some more. We're not just causing problems for these kids' physiology for the long run, 20, 30 years later, because their epigenome is now set for feast, not famine.
Right.
But we're also setting them up for obesity, which shuts off their survival programs right now. So their bodies are aging quicker than they otherwise would.
Large populations and subgroups of populations all across the world who have fasted as a part of tradition and culture for hundreds, thousands of years. And there's pretty good evidence from these groups as well.
Right. Well, let's name some of them.
The Jains in India.
In India. They're probably the the most well-studied group, and that there's scientific evidence that they have the most number of people over 70 in good health than any other religion.
Than any other group in India.
Yeah. Fair
And
enough.
a lot of people go, oh, well, the Jains are also vegetarian, but lots of people in India are vegetarian, and the Jains are even doing better than them.
Yes. And we'll get to the vegetarian diet and what the science says about that versus a meat-based diet. But there are other religions. Christians fast. There's Ramadan for Muslims. These are not just coincidences. These aren't just religious practices. It's clear that humanity has figured out that you feel better, you look better, you ultimately are disease resistant. You might even help cure diseases by going through these periods of being hungry, or at least not having food in your tummy. Why? Because it activates these 3 longevity defenses that we just mentioned.
But there's sort of a checklist. And so let's talk about, like, if people got to have like 4 takeaways here, 5 takeaways. Eat less often. You would say start with eating less often by skipping 1 meal a day and moving from there.
Yeah. And don't snack.
And don't snack.
Yep. Avoid sugary drinks and foods.
Okay. Eat less often. When you do eat, kill the sugar.